Welcome to our In Focus discussion tonight. It's in honor of Donor Remembrance Day. This is a day set aside to remember and honor people who have given the gift of life through organ, eye, tissue donation. You've heard about this, right? Organ donation. So today, community members gathered at the Celebration of Life Monument, and they did this to reflect on the impact that those donors have had on their recipients. Joining us live in studio is Tamisa Powers, the mother of a donor. Tamisa, thanks for being here tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, well, we're happy to talk to you. And obviously, you're here because you're memorializing your son, Lincoln. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about him, some of your favorite memories of him?
I have so many favorite memories, but just to pick a few, I remember when he was little, he started walking at like 7.5 months. So there was no way we could tame him at any point in time. So also have memories of him and his older brother, Trey, in front of the TV in their underwear, just dancing to NSYNC and Bye Bye Bye. So those are some fun memories that we have. And then also watching him play football. That was probably some of the funnest times, is watching him play football.
You go from seeing your kid that young and watching him grow into a young man. Take us back to 2018. At your own comfort level, can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, so I remember getting a phone call when I was at church. It was the 11 o'clock service. It was about to start. And I remember thinking, I haven't talked to Lincoln in about a week. I should call him. And then I got a message through Messenger from his girlfriend asking me if I had talked to Lincoln. And I'm like, I was just talking about it. I was getting ready to call him. And that she said she couldn't get a hold of him. So next thing I know, I just start getting phone calls from my son and from my ex-husband. And it was like, okay, there was a car accident. We don't know if it was linked, but nobody can get a hold of him. So I just remember sitting outside of my church and just kneeling down by the wall and just like praying, like, Lord, don't let it be Lincoln, don't let it be Lincoln. So they said that whoever it was being life flighted to the University of Utah. So I've had a lot of people ask me, you want me to drive you? You want me to drive you? I'm like, no, you can drive with me and catch up, but I'm getting in the car and I'm going. So as I was in the car, I just remember thinking, talking to the Lord, like, please don't let this be Lincoln. And then I just had this calming about it. And it's like I heard God just tell me, okay, one, it's Lincoln. I've got him and it's okay. You'll be fine. And so I knew going to the hospital that it was Lincoln.
As a father, I can't imagine what that was like. So how did you get the idea to donate your son's organs and tissues?
They asked us there once we realized that they basically said he was brain dead. And they asked us about organ or donating his organs. And myself, my ex-husband, and my son Trey, we didn't have a problem saying, okay, yes, he wanted to donate, so it wasn't a hard decision at all. His dad was a donor, and so having the conversation with his dad, he knew that was something he wanted to do.
You were proud of him.
Oh, absolutely.
His whole life, obviously.
Oh my gosh.
I can just tell, right? You got to be proud that he did this, and I know that you made the decision, but can you just talk about the comfort that it brings you in your healing journey?
The comfort that we have is because Lincoln touched so many lives when he was alive. I was telling some of your coworkers in the green room, like, everywhere I go, I get asked, "Are you Lincoln's mom? Are you Lincoln's mom?" Or they'll tell me, Lincoln was my best friend, and so he touched so many lives in the 19 years he was here, and then through donating his organs, he's touching even more lives. So it's like just nonstop. He's such a blessing.
I never met him. I can just see in those photos his smile and his energy. It was like an aura. You could just tell he was somebody that people were drawn to.
His smile. Yeah. Absolutely the best.
Yeah. So your son's name, it lives on. It's on the Celebration of Life Monument. I mean, what does that mean to you and your whole family?
It's just a nice place to go because I don't go downtown very often, but when I do, I always stop and there it is and see his name there. And then we also have one of the stones that are there too on the sidewalk. So, and it's such a nice monument. They've done so well with it. So it's just a nice place to go and just to remember him. So.
It strikes me that when you go and get your license, it's such a small thing. You're filling out all the check marks, yes, no, whatever. And one, like, saying yes to organ donation could make such a big difference, just one small thing like that. So there might be somebody out there watching tonight who could contemplate whether to be a donor. What would you say to them?
I would say do it. I guess my ex-husband's like, I don't need the parts, give it to somebody else. But it's such a blessing to run into somebody who received an organ donation, and they're so thankful. And I think if you have the option to do it, do it. I'm an organ donor. I believe everybody in my family is. And just hearing the stories of how Lincoln has helped others, it's amazing.
Is there something powerful too in this whole culture of flex and bragging on Instagram about the charity that you've done, that you have no idea who you're going to help? It's sort of this like blind faith in somewhere down the line, this ripple of the future, I'll help somebody. I don't know about it, but that's a good thing.
It is. It's actually surprising because you hear stories of a family member who goes out of town that runs into somebody who knows somebody that maybe has Lincoln's heart. I mean, and we've had those stories come to us, and it's like, it's amazing how they actually find you. So yeah, you don't know who you're helping, but it's just a blessing to be able to help.
Absolutely. Tamisa Powers, the mother of a donor, we really appreciate you being on tonight. An amazing story, your son's legacy and your healing journey. Thank you again so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for staying with us for our second In Focus discussion tonight. It's on Donor Remembrance Day. Earlier we heard from the family member of a donor about their emotional experience. And well, now we want to turn to the organization that helps provide resources and support to these families. It's not just one check mark when you get your license. This is a lifetime commitment that you want to honor as well. David Robles, Director of Donors Family Services at Donor Connect. David, thanks for spending Friday night with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Okay, so Donor Remembrance Day itself, let's talk about that. What's the background behind this event? And again, I mentioned it's like someone is giving this up, and it sounds like you're really wanting to say thank you over and over again. What does it mean to the donor community?
You know, it really is that we want to say thank you. April is National Donate Life Month, and the very last day is when we get to honor and remember those that have donated. So those that have donated eyes, organ, or tissue. And it's huge. It's a big gift. These are individuals, you met a wonderful individual earlier today who aren't thinking of themselves, who don't even know who this recipient might be, and they want to help their community. And so it's very special to be able to take a day to think of them and honor them.
When we talk about organ, eye, tissue donation, it has to be bittersweet. I mean, you have heartache for the donor family because they have a tangible physical person that they're losing, and obviously there's joy for the recipient involved. I mean, it is as simple as that check mark, yes, I'm a donor, but then it's also super complicated and get very emotional. Can you address some of the things I just said?
Yeah, when working with families at this time, it's definitely very emotional. And so they're already having to deal with making end-of-life decisions for their loved one. They're having to deal maybe thinking about funeral homes, and so it's already a very sensitive time. And then on top of that, there's the question about organ donation. And some of these families really find that that is something that can provide them more comfort. Instead of feeling just loss and why, this is more of this is the why, and gives it more meaning.
Well, you talk about this is the why. There's a guy named Simon Sinek who talks about find your why. I have a lot of questions for you, but can you talk about what your why is?
My why? Wow, that's a good question. For me, I love to be able to be a helper. I love that what we get to do as an organization is to help through saving and healing lives with organ donation, tissue donation, eye donation. And really, I see what we do is just connecting individuals that are already great human beings and wanting to help the community, and being able to line them up with those recipients that are just in great need.
Seeing the photos of the donors and the recipients is pretty powerful. How can the option of a donation be then a source of comfort to a family? I mean, to me it's sort of obvious, but on the other hand, there's so many complicated emotions, right? So how is this a comforting feeling to a family that has just lost a loved one?
Yeah, and it's hard to even say that comforting might be the right word, but there's so many emotions that they're going through. But I think it's kind of that knowledge of, yes, this is the right thing to do. This is what we need to do. This is what they would want to do. They would want to help those that are around them. And so I think that's really what people are able to see. They know that there is a great need for organ donation, and that there's, just that need.
Well, there certainly is, and we can talk about more of that maybe later in the newscast. But Tamisa's son, Lincoln, he was honored today, or is honored on the Celebration of Life Monument. Tell us about this monument. I mean, like I said, you're saying thank you in sort of a permanent way. Like, the future will remember you. It's not as if this is totally anonymous, although that probably is the spirit of this. But talk about the monument, and then kind of what does that symbolize to the donor community?
Yeah, the monument is a great thing that we have here in Salt Lake City. It's on 3rd East and 5th South. And if you ever go by, you might not really see it or notice it when you first go by. But as you can see, there are some glass panels there, and if you get close, those are the names of these donors. So right now, there are over 8,000 names that have been engraved. And today we were able to spend the day and visit with those families who either wanted to see the names of their loved one there, or maybe a recipient who knows the name of who helped save their life. And that has been huge. I've been able to hear those stories and to listen, and it's been a wonderful day for me.
In a world fraught by pandemic and politics, what can we all take away from the simple act of being an organ donor?
Yeah, there are politics and things that can make things messy, but I know that there are a lot of people that care, that want to help those that are around them, and not even knowing who they are. And I feel blessed really to be part of this community. Utah is a giving community, and without thinking of themselves, just wanting to be able to help those around them when they're in a moment where they're dealing with grief and loss and all these other emotions, donation comes up and they say yes. And again, I just feel blessed to be a part of this.
Can you tell us about the comprehensive support program that Donors Connect really has to help the families process and cope with the loss of a loved one? Like, it's not just, I mean, I can just tell there's a comprehensive system here where you're like, we're with you, we're going to support you. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. It comes from the very beginning. As soon as we know that there's the possibility that somebody could be a donor, our family support coordinators are there, and they're able to explain what the process looks like for donation. They're able to answer questions, walk them through it. They work 24/7 shifts like the nurses do, and they're there. They stay with the family 24/7 at the hospital, and they're responding to texts, and they're calling them and providing them with updates. And then after donation takes place, we send them letters. They can call us at any time if they need help with resources. We continue to follow up with them. We have a newsletter that we send out. We have a Facebook community for our donor families. So we have a lot of things that we try to do to help these families and know that we care about them, that they're not alone, and that they're a part of the donation community.
What still surprises you about the work you do?
I'm surprised at how I'm not surprised how wonderful people are. We think of the difficult situations and the conversations that they're having, and you know, it's possibly the worst day of their life, hearing that their loved one's not going to make it. And when they hear of donation, it's absolutely, it's a yes. And to know that people can kind of set their grief and their loss aside for a minute and think of others, that to me is just incredible.
Okay. David Robles, remembering that people are wonderful, is an amazing part of this interview for me. And thank you for the inspiring information. You're the Director of Donor Family Services at Donor Connect. David, thanks again for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
Welcome back to our third and final In Focus discussion tonight on Donor Remembrance Day. We're going to continue our conversation with Donor Connect, this time with Mark Dixon, who's the Director of Public Education and Public Relations. Mark, great to have you with us tonight on this very important topic.
Wonderful to be with you, Nick. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. We're learning so much tonight, and you know, Donor Connect has been on our show before, but let's look at the data again, because we've heard so many emotional stories tonight, and what I've realized is, yes, it's an amazing thing to say I'm going to give my donor, to be a donor of my organs, but like, there's like a huge need out there. I mean, this is a very pressing pressing need, right?
Yes, there is a great need. I'll share with you what I think are some very interesting statistics. First of all, there are nearly 1,000 people right now in Utah that are on the waiting list for an organ transplant. And in contrast to that, there were 143 people in 2020 that were able to meet all of the criteria to allow them to be organ donors. And so you can see that there's quite the gap between that 1,000 people on the waiting list and 143 people that are there to provide organs at a time of need. So that's an interesting statistic for all of us to contemplate. The other thing I would share with you is that there are, well, I'll wait for your next question, Nick.
Well, I guess who can be a donor? I mean, we talk about it like it's the Navy SEALs, like it's so hard. I mean, just by saying I want to be a donor, you'll evaluate me after I'm gone, and you'll maybe take it or leave it, right? But there's nothing wrong with saying yes to that. I guess you mentioned only 140 qualified. Maybe I misunderstood that, but I'm sure there's all kinds of issues you have to look at when you're giving something of a body to somebody else to try to save their life. So I guess, can you talk more about like how those numbers work? And then it doesn't cost anything, right, to say, hey, I want to be an organ donor?
Well, I'll answer that last question first. It costs nothing to be an organ donor. We encourage everybody to be an organ donor. Now, in the last segment, I think David mentioned that there were about 60% of people in Utah who are organ donor, or who are on the registry. But there's 95% favorability that people have to being a potential organ donor. And so we're trying to encourage people to go ahead and, on their driver's license, check the box so that they can be an organ donor. But there's other ways also that people can find themselves on the organ registry. And there is no cost. In fact, I would say that there are dividends that are associated with being an organ donor. Those dividends include the fact that you can feel good about yourself and your willingness and desire to help somebody when there is the need for that.
I think that's probably something that we all want to feel, like we're connected to something greater and that we make a difference in the world, even after we're gone, right? So
Exactly.
The COVID-19 pandemic, new questions, right, when it comes to organ donation. And I kind of touched on that before about, even if I say I'm going to be an organ donor, do I even know what's going to happen? Does it even matter? But let's talk about COVID, I guess. If I test positive, if someone tests positive for COVID, can they be a donor? I mean, can we get into some of those COVID issues?
Sure. Anybody can be an organ donor. There are people that have had grave illnesses in the past, be it COVID or other kinds of things that they've dealt with. And upon recovery, they're recovered and they're qualified to be able to give organs. There is a great deal of criteria that a potential organ donor needs to meet. And so in the interest of safety, in the interest of a transplant recipient receiving the very, very best care, there's criteria to be met. But just because COVID-19 exists and people are dealing with that doesn't mean that they should be dissuaded from going onto the registry and signing up to be an organ donor.
Absolutely. Well, the Utah State Legislature involved in this issue, passing House Bill 272. The governor signed it. Tell us about this bill. How is it going to contribute to what you do every day, talking about organ, eye, tissue donations?
Well, we are thrilled by the passage of HB 272. House Bill 272 started when an Eagle Scout candidate by the name of Catcher McCardle had an idea to create a specialty Donate Life license plate for the state of Utah. Utah doesn't have this right now, and HB 272 paves the way for that license plate to go into production. And like with all specialty license plates, there is a donation component. And so when somebody signs up to get that license plate, there's a $25 donation that will come to Donor Connect that will help us in our efforts to promote organ donation and donation awareness activities.
Well, we hope to see a lot of those plates on the roads. A couple questions for you to kind of wrap things up.
Yeah.
Why 60% and not like 95%? And then the second part of that question, where can folks learn more? Where can they sign up if they want to take action on what you're saying today?
Well, that disparity between 95% of people being favorable to organ donation and only 60% being registered, that's why I have a job. And I'm thrilled to be able, wherever I go, whenever I have the platform, to be able to encourage people to donate or to be an organ donor. That's what we're trying to do, is close that gap between 60% who are registered and 95% who are willing to be registered. And then where can people go to register? Well, we've got a wonderful website, yesutah.org. And if people are interested, they don't have to sign up. They can go there to get education, to learn about what the donation process looks like, to be inspired by stories like you've touched upon earlier tonight, Nick. And there is on the yesutah.org registry a place, it says register now, and people can click on that button.
Wonderful.
And provide the information that they need to be an organ donor.
Okay, Mark, we're going to have to wrap it up. Mark Dixon, by the way, I do appreciate all that. I just got to get to the commercial break. But you're the Director of Public Education with Donor Connect. Thank you so much for being on tonight.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. We'll be right back.